And we are live. Okay, here we are. I'm so excited. This is my first LinkedIn Live in a long time. I can't wait to introduce you to Kiana Carter. She's got some big things coming. She is a big thing. So, with no further introduction from me, I'm going to let Kiana introduce herself.
Thank you, Jessica, for having me. Excited to be here. So my name is Kiana. I've been in the tech space since I graduated college in 2016, San Jose State. And from there, I started my first job at Facebook. I was at their wellness center. I was a lead coordinator, coordinating all of the Facebook employees and all of their appointments. And I was in that space for 2 years. From there, I did go to Google, and I was at Google for 2 years. I started as a recruiting coordinator and then went into a full cycle recruiting role on the university team. Loved doing that. That really jump started my focus in career coaching and also recruiting. And then from Google, I did go into a startup space. I was at GoPuff for 2.5 years. And at GoPuff, I did all the things. So I owned all of tech recruitment there, all from entry level all the way to executive recruiting. Wore multiple hats, as you know, at a startup. You have a lot of different things going. We were trying to go public, on track for that. So really was trying to bring in the best talent. So I did my time there and I loved it. That really, really got me into recruiting and really passionate about it. However, unfortunately, I was affected by the tech layoffs that are happening. I was laid off in March and really took the last couple of months to figure out, okay, do I stay in recruitment? Do I start applying, knowing that the remote world is changing? People are shifting back into the office. Do I even want to go back to an office? So here I am 6 months later, and I've realized the office life is not for me. I enjoy traveling. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to just do my own thing. So I am launching my own coaching business with all of my knowledge from Google, GoPuff. I just want to continue to do recruiting, but in a different way. I want to teach people what should they have on their resume, what are recruiters looking for, what are hiring managers looking at. So from resume writing to interview prep to salary negotiations to job search strategies. So I am going to be focusing on that with Your Key Coach, and then eventually want to expand my coaching to travel coaching, if that's even a thing. If it's not a thing, I'll make it a thing.
That's what I'm talking about. Turn it into your own.
And I don't know, maybe a life coach once I, get more experience under my belt with life. But yeah, that's who I am. I am originally from California, the Bay. I relocated to Texas in 2019. I was in Austin for 2 years and then did Houston for a year. But as of today, I am in Mexico City, where I have been here for almost a year now, trying to get my Spanish on.
Yes.
And that digital nomad life. Hopefully one day I could do this in habla español.
Not with me, but
So you got to tap into that half side.
I know the other half is going to be super excited. I'm super juiced for you because, first of all, you are super young. Let's tap into that. And you've worked with some of the biggest tech companies that people my age and older wish to do. And then you've taken the pivot and you've gone to travel. When you were laid off, what were your thoughts? Did you think that you would stay traveling? How did you navigate this? Because it's happening to all of us right now. Everybody's being laid off. This has been the most, I'm going to say the most weird year.
Yeah.
Horrible sentence, but you get it.
Yeah. And to your point, it's been a weird year. And I think for me and what I've learned is I'll be honest, I worked my butt off in my job, and I've learned you could be a top performer, you will get cut in an hour because that's literally what happened.
You were a top performer. You were.
I had survived 3 layoffs prior to that, so I was like, oh, I'm safe. I'm in this thing. I'm gonna go public with this company. And little did I know, I had a full calendar and got cut at noon. And I was like, so what happens to all the candidates I have to talk to at 1, 2, 3 o'clock? Is someone gonna take over? Because I know y'all are not. So that's already a
Right.
candidate experience. But long story short, it was a blessing in disguise. One thing that I love that I did was I saved my money. So I still have my full severance.
Touch
And
on that.
I
Touch
haven't
on that.
even, I haven't even touched it. Like it's sitting there. Like I put it in a high yield savings account. It's collecting more bread. So I
There you
think
go.
that isn't another thing I want to coach on, like financials, like especially in your 20s, because in your 20s you want to live your best life. But
Well,
as
preparing for a layoff. You touched it. You
right.
can't be loyal. I'm so sorry. You cannot be loyal. You go in, you do a great
No.
job, but you cannot be loyal. You have to look out for yourself.
Exactly. And one thing that happened was my boyfriend was actually with me as I was getting laid off. He was with me when I got the Cal invite. He was with me when they did the little spiel. And the first thing he did was, Kiana, I'm calling off work. Like, we're going to have a day to ourselves. Let's just take a breather. Let's go on a
Mhm.
walk. Let's go eat. Let's do something. Like, let's just get out. And I was like, oh my God, really? Like, he could have been like, yo, that's I got a
Good
meeting
luck.
now.
He could have said good
So,
luck.
like, that moment in itself, I was like, oh my God, I love you. Like,
Right.
and since then, he was the one that he's the one that even prompted me to even think about like owning my own company. I would have never thought, I was like, no, let me start applying. Like, the American dream is to work the 9 to 5 or whatever the case is. But now that I'm in Mexico City, I'm like, yo, there's so many creatives here. There's so many entrepreneurs. And I'm in a space now where it's like, I'm motivated, I'm inspired, and I want to continue living this life. And that's why I don't see myself going back to an office. Like that's just not for me.
Absolutely. So you've navigated the 9 to 5 life, and now
Mm-hmm.
you're on the entrepreneurial journey. For those who are looking to stay in the tech space, what can they start to do now to prepare to make the pivot? Because a lot of us aren't in tech, but we see the money coming from tech.
Right. And I think one thing while I was at my previous roles or previous jobs, like I was always told, like, don't depend on one stream of income, like have
Yeah.
something else going. And I think as I was at GoPuff, I did do career coaching on the side for another company. Thanks, JJ. Um, and
Management is my hero too.
and so like I did career coaching for another company, so I was making side money from that. So
Okay.
even then, it's like if you're in tech right now, be thankful, keep doing what you're doing, have those conversations with your manager. I mean, shoot, my manager at the time told me I was good. I was getting promoted to lead, and then all of a sudden I got cut. So I don't know if you can really
I
trust.
gas with you.
Literally toxic. So
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, just tap into your hobbies, get in rooms where people inspire you. I think be in
Yes.
rooms like where people are better than you. And I think that's something that has motivated me, especially towards the end of my 20s. Like,
Okay.
there's so many meetups here in Mexico City where these people have been doing this entrepreneurship for years or since the
Okay.
pandemic hit. Like, people got laid off during the pandemic and they were like, that layoff taught me I need to do my own thing. And
Okay.
granted, I had a job during the pandemic, so I didn't have to tap into that, thankfully. But, 3 years later, here we are. So I just think everyone just needs to have this mentality that you're not always going to be safe. Like life be lifing sometimes. So you just
Basically,
gotta realize like you could be in a role for a year or 20 years. You probably could get cut. I'm not gonna say will, could, but
you
just
just
tap
never
into
know.
you never know.
You
You never
never,
know.
never know. So, for those job snatchers who are way younger than me, what advice would you give them to be able to get into the tech space? How do you jump into the tech space? Because you jumped in really early.
Yes. So I think it helped too that I was in the Silicon Valley. So I went to San Jose State and, San Jose full of all the tech companies, everything. And I think too, another thing is networking. Um, I thankfully someone headhunted me for Facebook. So I didn't have to apply. But for my Google role, funny story, I actually kept getting I kept getting rejected for recruiting roles because I really wanted to get into recruiting. And I was like, how the hell do I get into recruiting? And people were like, you need to start from the bottom and make your way up. And I was like, all right, bet. What do I need to do? And
Right.
they were like, you need to start as a coordinator. So I applied at Facebook as a coordinator. I applied at other like startups and other tech companies as a coordinator. Kept getting rejected. I had Amazon. Thought I had that in the bag. Got
Yep.
rejected. My last interview was Google. And I was like, all right. And how I got into Google was because one of my exes from college, his fraternity brother's girlfriend, I basically
Networking.
was like,
Networking.
I was like, she works at Google. Okay. We saw each other at parties. I don't know if she remembers me, but let me shoot my shot. So I was
There you
like, hey, I see you're at Google. I'm trying to get into recruiting. I've been rejected by X, X, and X. Like, Google would be like my dream. Like, how do I get in? And I was
Yep.
like, she's probably not going to respond. Like, I haven't seen her like in years, whatever. And literally, she responded, she's like, you're in luck because we are hiring for coordinators right now. Send me your resume right now. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Sent her my resume. A
Yep.
week later, I got a call. Hey, we want to interview you. Did the Google interviews and got accepted. And I was like, oh my God, I got an offer.
The
And
power of networking.
power of networking, rejection as a redirection, all those little affirmations, they work.
Can we make sure that we highlight the fact that when you're networking, like Kiana said, she already had her pitch ready. She was very
Yeah.
direct in her ask. And so when you're getting ready to network, you need to make sure you have your 20-second pitch prepared and
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Because the one thing a lot of people do not like is if you're asking to talk to me, tell me why. What do you want? How can I
That's the
help
thing.
you?
And that's the thing. Like, I was very vulnerable with her. I was like, listen, I'm trying to get into recruiting. I've already gotten rejected from Facebook and Amazon, but I think, Google might, it's worth a shot. I've seen you've been there for X amount of time.
Yep.
Anyway, we can do a chat. If they're hiring, just let me know. But she literally, one sentence, we're hiring, send me your resume. That's all it
You had a
took.
call to action. Do not leave out the call to action. I see a
Literally.
lot of people that I work with from my clientele. If you're asking for something, tell me what you want. You have
Mm-hmm.
to have a call to action when you're networking, especially if you're on LinkedIn. Everybody on LinkedIn wants something. We're here for something. I'm here for money and I'm here to make connections.
Period.
Tell me how I can help you. Tell me where
Literally.
I can put you so you can put yourself in the best position. People get afraid of asking. So, what advice would you give to those younger job snatchers and professionals to get over the fear of asking?
I think so. I used to have that fear. I think at the end of the day, we need money and it's a survival tactic. And I
Gotta
think
survive.
if I'm like, if I never asked, like I would not be where I am today, right?
A closed
And
mouth
also
doesn't get fed.
my literally my dad's favorite slogan. So I think that is where I got it from. My dad, he's not afraid to
Yeah.
ask for stuff. So I don't like I'm not either. However, my mom, she's very like, no, like have some shame. Like, don't ask, like you're bothering them. And I'm like, yeah, no, mom, sorry. Like, I'm gonna go get this. The first thing I'm gonna say is no. Like,
That's it. All you can tell me is no, and I'm gonna ask somebody else. If you can't give it to me, somebody else can.
someone else will. That goes with all facets of life, everyone. Dating relationships, whatever.
Yes.
Career, everything. Like closed mouth doesn't get fed. Ask for what you want.
That that part. So now that you're transitioning into your own firm and your own career coach, how would you coach someone trying to create their own 20-second pitch? What is something that they have to have in this pitch outside of the call to action? What do you want people to know?
Good question. So really remember, keep it short and sweet. Say your name, what you do, highlight what that other person does. I see you're X, Y, and Z at this company. You've been there for X amount of years. I really want to learn more about this role, link the role that you're interested in, because 9 times out of 10, when you're reaching out to that person, they're probably not the recruiter. And if they are, still link the role because recruiters have so many other roles. Like make it easier for the person you're reaching out to because they have a full-time job, clearly. So keep it short and sweet, easy to read. Don't be too wordy. Don't ramble about your background. Like you can shoot them your resume and your resume is going to handle that. And just keep it short and sweet. tell them, hey, I'm interested in this role, would love to chat with you, or if you can direct me to the right person, can't wait to hear back. Done.
Easy. Super easy. I like that. Okay. Make sure you guys are taking notes because she's dropping gems and she's charging for them. So the fact that I got her on here for free, y'all better take these gems. So the other thing I want to focus on is now how to prepare people for their next role. What would be their first step? If they were working with you, what would you want them to do?
Yeah, I was gonna say the first step, if you're not working with me, is to get working with me.
That part.
No.
No, y'all better link up.
So, okay, if you're planning on working with me, the first step is, do you even have a resume? Because I've dealt with people in the past, not recently, but they're like, I don't even know where to start. And I'm like, all right, well, let's do a brainstorming exercise. What have you done? Did you go to college? If you didn't, what other skills do you have that are transferable? So really just drafting that resume. Now, if you don't, or if you do have a resume, then we got to boost it up. We got to, make some changes. Let's see if it's the right format. Let's see how many pages you have. If it's too wordy, do you not have enough content? So I start with a 45-minute resume revamp, and that is basically me and you. We're going to have your resume. It's going to be during the meeting, and I'm literally picking out your resume. I'm going to tell you what looks good and what we need to take off, what we need to switch up, things like that. And from there, we're going to start talking about your interview skills. When was the last time you interviewed? If you never interviewed before, we're going to need to do an interview training. If you had interviewed before, when was that? If it was 4 years ago, you're basically a beginner because things have changed. So really just tapping into your interview skills. Can you communicate with people? Tell me about yourself. That is the hardest question for a lot of people. Like a lot of people, as much as people like to talk about themselves, they don't when it comes to interviews for some reason.
They don't know how. They go blank.
Like it's crazy because like as a recruiter, like if I see a bomb resume, I'm like, I'm hopping on the phone with this candidate right now. And once I talk to them, they're like, or they don't give me much. And I'm like, damn, you got a good resume, but you don't even know how to talk. That's crazy.
They go hand in hand. It goes hand in hand.
So it's like, and also know what's on your resume too, because some people have resume writers where okay, that's fine. Finesse, do whatever you got to do. Use AI. AI is booming right now. Use it, fine, but like make it into your own voice. Like don't just rely on AI, because I can tell when that is AI like created. Like, especially once you're on the phone with them, I'm like, you don't even sound like your resume. So long story short, if you're going to go that route, please just rehearse your resume at least.
Yes. No, that's the biggest part. You can't have a stellar resume or dynamic resume, as people like to say. And then I jump on the phone with you and it's like watching paint dry. What makes you, this is your time to shine. Once the whole point of having a resume is to snatch that person's attention so you can get on the phone. This is where your 20-second pitch comes in. Tell me about yourself.
Like I know within like 10 seconds if this person is going to get to the first round interview. Like if during your tell me about yourself, like I can get a grasp of your personality as you're telling me about yourself. And as I'm working with hiring managers, I know how they be. So it's like I can tell, oh, this person, yep, they're gonna click it with the hiring manager. Like hiring manager's gonna love this person. Or I'll be like, oh, I'm too embarrassed to even send you to the hiring manager. Like, no. We're not about to ruin my metrics.
What would make you not pass someone forward to the hiring manager? Like, what are the top 2 qualities that you see on resumes that you're like, you know what, I'm going to pass?
So it's not so much the resume, because the resume is going to want me to jump on the phone with them. It's more so during the recruiter screen when I'm like, tell me about yourself. You can't even really tell me about what you're doing in your current role. You're very robotic. You're not able to just like expand on your projects. Like I'll point out things on your resume and I'm like, tell me about that. And if they just start rambling to the point where it's just not making sense, I'm like, did you really do this project, or did you just put this on there because you want someone to talk to you? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you're able to confidently expand on your projects. Like I know people get nervous when they tell me about yourselves, that's fine. But once we go on to different questions, if you're not able to really talk about them in a way that I'm like, ooh, yes, I'm putting in feedback. Like this person was able to talk about their metrics, what they did, what they improved. Like if they're not able to really talk about that, I'm like, not a fit. Maybe someone else might want them. So long story short, it's like, make sure your resume aligns with really what you did, because I'm going to be putting in feedback that hiring manager is going to be reviewing.
Okay.
So that's one thing. Another thing too is just being honest about like what you've been doing. Again, kind of to the point of like, oh, like tell me about your projects. And if they start rambling, like again, like that's just it's just not going to work, because you're not going to get through the other rounds of interviews.
No, know your stuff. You got to know your stuff.
Stuff. And then also too, it's like, what you want to do in your next role. Some people are like, oh, I just jumped on the call with you because, it seems interesting. Like just know who I am. Or like some people don't even know like what company I'm calling from, and they're just jumping on the phone with me for no reason. It's like, can you
What
do a
a
little bit?
waste.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
wasting my time and your time. So
Yeah.
do your
Okay. So at least know the recruiter's name and the job
yeah.
description. Maybe.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, I know people are, applying to so many jobs, they forget, whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, it's like I send you an email prior to the call. I send you a calendar invite. Like you have so many different channels to figure out who the hell I am. So
Right. Big facts. Big facts. Those are great points. Again, if you guys are not working with Kiana, I suggest you either shoot a shot in her DMs right now or send her an email. As we pivot, I want to make sure we talk about the current state of tech. Right now, we are experiencing the most layoffs we've seen in a long time.
yes.
We are, first of all, people are panicking. Let's just be very honest. We're panicking, and we still want to be competitive in this arena. How can someone who's looking to pivot be competitive in this current state of tech? Like, what do they need to do?
So I've been telling all my clients right now is everyone go get a referral, start networking, because putting your resume through like applying online, your resume is going to get lost under all the 400 other resumes. You
That
need to
part.
get your resume you need to get it through a human being. Like do not put it through an automated system. Like it's going to get lost. So what I've been telling my clients is like, listen, if I know someone that's in the space that you're wanting to be in, I'm going to connect you with them. I'll let you do the intro. I'll even help you intro. Like right now, I am working with a client that's going from news reporting to tech.
Okay.
And she found a role that my friend luckily just started at this company. And I was like, yo, can you please refer my client? Like she's trying to pivot. I know you just started at this company, but hey, why don't you start off with a referral
First
bonus?
of all, you
And
get money for referrals.
that's another thing too. Ask for a referral, because it's a win-win for both of y'all. They get a referral bonus, whoever refers you, and then you get a new job with a bigger salary. So ask for the referral. That's why you should not be afraid to ask.
That part. That part. That part. Don't be afraid to ask. It's money in
Oh,
an ask. There is money behind an ask. There's money in networking.
literally,
It
like
makes
I've been making six figures since I've been 24, and I would
Say it
have
one more
never
time.
made
I'm
that.
sorry. Say it one more time.
I have been making six figures since I was 24, and I would have not made that if I never asked for what I wanted. And also, too, when it comes to salary, you need to ask around. Like, do your
Yes.
research on salaries, because companies will lowball you. And as a recruiter, I'll be honest, we don't start at the top of the band. We always start at the middle, like a little sweet spot, just to see,
Yep.
like to leave room for negotiation, because 9 times out of 10, people are going to negotiate. And that's why you
As
should be
they
negotiating.
should.
Yeah.
Hopefully, right?
Yes.
I
Hopefully.
will say, so let me ask you this. This might be getting a little personal. For the negotiation phases, who asked for more money, men or women?
Men. Always the men. Always.
Ladies, I asked this question for a reason. In my career, I've been doing this a little over, before I started my own firm, I'm doing this about 13 years. We don't ask for bigger bags. We're just happy to be in the room. That's not how shit works anymore. We want the
No.
biggest bag that they have to offer, and the only way we can get there is if we ask.
And that's the thing too. It's like, even if you're jumping, let's say your current job, you're making 60K and they're offering you 80K,
Yeah.
there is 90K. You're leaving 10K on the table if you just take that 80K. There is 10K left on the table. Take the 90K at
Yes.
least.
At
Ask for
least.
100K.
Because if they
Ask.
want you, they're going to be willing to negotiate with you.
Always.
Even
And as
talking
a
about,
recruiter, it's like, I can't tell them to negotiate. So if a woman is not negotiating and I know I got her in at 80K when she could have got in for 85 or 90, I'm like, dang, I wish I could
right.
tell you that there
I
was
wish I
money
could
left on
wink
the
at you
table.
and let you know, like, girl, ask for more.
Like, why did you sign that offer? You should have talked to me first.
No, but seriously. And I do notice a trend of, because I work with C suite to executive women in leadership, we still at that stage do not ask for the higher end of the salary margin just because we don't want to be rejected. If I ask you for more money, because you're going to be, the company is comfortable asking me for more work. You want more productivity from me, right? You're going to have to pay and secure a bag for me and with me.
And think of taxes too, because taxes will lower that base. If you're coming at 80, you're really coming in at what? Depending where you are. Cali, you're probably coming in at 65, 70.
That part. The areas
So you
matter.
got to think about it.
Right.
Think about it.
Okay, so we have a good question. What do you find more valuable, equity or the base salary up front?
Oh, this is a good one.
It is a good one.
So what I've noticed is the younger folks, we want that money up front. So that means base. Equity. Like when I started GoPuff, I was like, what is equity? You guys aren't even public. Like, what is this? This is monopoly to me. So I was like, I need a higher base to make up for that.
Yeah.
So that's like another thing when it comes to equity. If they're public, it's better. But when they're private, hate to say it, but it's not real until they go public. So just think about
No, say
that.
it again. Be honest.
Yeah. Like if you have a startup offer, definitely up the base because I mean it also depends what stage they're in, right? Like
Yes.
Series A from Series H. Like Series A, ooh, y'all got a long way. So think about it like that. Get as much base up front. However, what I've noticed is the executives or the people that are a little older have been in their career for like 10 plus years.
Yep.
Equity is like key to success. They are like, no, I want as much as equity as I can, all the things. Especially at a startup, they're like, oh, I'm coming from Amazon, like I'm gonna be, forfeiting my equity or whatever the case is. So just think about those things. I think to me, base is very important, especially since I got laid off. It was like, okay, well, thank God I got more base because it reflected in my severance. So long story short, totally depends on your needs. If you have high cash available, then maybe equity is most important to you. But if you want more cash, then base is something that's important.
That's a really good response. How do you feel about sign-on bonuses?
I think they're good. I don't know. I feel a little mixed about it just because some things that I've seen is like they won't give you enough base, but they'll give you a big sign on. But the sign on is taxed a lot. So think about that. And then also, too, what if you end up hating that job and you end up quitting? Then you most likely have to pay that back, especially if it hasn't been a year. So think about that. I mean, sign-ons are great. It's best if they give you a high base and a sign-on because that's a win-win. But if it's like, oh, let's say like I'll give you 70K, but we'll give you a 20K sign-on. It's
Okay.
like, all right, y'all couldn't give me 90K and like no sign-on.
That part.
So it's like, okay.
But you have to be willing to ask that, right? You have to ask these types of questions.
Yeah, it's like y'all don't have room for the base, but you have enough to throw me 20 extra in a sign-on bonus. When in reality, I'm only going to get probably 10K of it because of taxes. So
That's very true. I just want to make sure I threw that in there. All right, so we got another question. You ready?
Yeah.
Another scenario, 2 offers. One is full-time, but base is mediocre. Other is contract with potential to convert and pay is 20K more. Do we take the chance on the contract role?
Oh, that's a good one. I really think it depends on, like, if you see yourself at that for a long time. When it comes to full time, I would take the full time role. Now for the contract, if you're like, company's then take the 20K more. If there's a potential to convert, that's great. I wouldn't bank on
Okay.
that either, because at Google, I was a contractor and I was told that I was going to be converted. But then the pandemic hit, they paused conversions, all of that. So that got messy. But long story short, I would go with the contract role because there is potential and I want more money. And then full time, you could get off there. So I think regardless, it just depends on what's more important to you at the point of the offer. Is it, the company, or is it the money?
That's a really good response. I like that. And it really does depend. Can you afford to take a contract role at that moment?
Right.
Just depends on where you are. So I want to make sure that I ask you, as we talked about tech companies, are there specific qualities or attributes that tech companies value in candidates that our audience can start taking notes on?
Yeah. So I would say one thing is your personality. Culture fit is starting to be a big thing. I have seen interview feedback where, for example, an engineer, really good at coding, got the code done within the allotted time, code was spotless, everything was great. But when they got to the culture fit interview, they had no personality, they were robotic.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, like, you're a superb software engineer. Clearly, you know your stuff. But when it comes to the personality, like, it's just not aligning with the company. Versus interview feedback from someone that may have not finished the coding challenge during the interview, but may have, like, they got it, but it wasn't perfect. But when they got to the culture fit interview, the interviewer was like, oh yes, we need to hire this person immediately. And then when we get to hiring committee, they're like, all right, we'd rather have the person that has the best personality versus the one that had a spotless code. So that's why I tell people, like, when it comes to like the behavioral questions, like, tell me about a time where you had to navigate a scenario with a team, like a colleague, or when you had to lead a project, or, how would you handle a certain situation? Have you ever had basically any beef with a coworker? How did you handle that? Whatever the case is, like, those questions, they are trying to figure out who are you as a person, because they want to be able to work with you outside of coding, because you're not going to be coding 100% of the time. That's probably
Right.
like 50 or 60% of your role, or maybe even 40%. Who knows?
Right. Okay. That's a good one. Can you also give some insight to how candidates can effectively prepare for technical assessments and coding challenges during the interview process?
Yeah. So as you know, AI is booming right now. So there's a lot of AI tools when it comes to interviewing. You can spit a question at like an AI tool, and they'll spit you a question and you have to answer it. So definitely take advantage of those. Take advantage of just practicing your code. Set aside 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you need to do to just practice coding. And then also to rely on your recruiter. Your recruiter should be prepping you for these interviews. A good recruiter will get on the phone with you before your interviews and be like, listen, they're about to ask you something with Python. They're going to ask you a question where you have to build something. Whatever the case is, they should be prepping you. I have interviewed at Airbnb and Stripe, and I would say those companies, and I was applying for a recruiting role, and they really did a good job at prepping. Like, my recruiters in those interviews, they were telling me like, yo, this is what they're going to ask you. This is like an example response. Long story short, a good recruiter is going to prep you. So please rely on your recruiter, because they have metrics to meet as well. So if they get you to the offer stage, if you sign the offer, that is a win for them, but it's also a win for you because you get an offer and more money. So rely on your recruiter for prep, and definitely practice.
Perfect. We got another question. You ready?
Yes.
With all of the layoffs, is the tech field still a feasible option for people doing career pivots? I would think preference would always go to someone with tech experience who was laid off versus new fish. That's a good question, Jonathan.
That was a very good question. So I have been honest with my coaching clients. especially if they want to get into recruiting. I've been having a lot of people contact me being like, yo, I want to get into recruiting, da 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 da. I'm in sales right now. And like my boyfriend, for example, he's in sales. So he's like, Kiana, maybe I should get into recruiting. I'm like, not right now. Let's keep going the sales route, please. Like, no, we both can't be off right now. Like, just stay where you're at. So long story short, it depends where in tech you want to get into. I would say the recruiting roles, I would hold off. Recruitment does not bring in money. We're spending on a new hire. So we are always the first ones that get laid off because we're not bringing in revenue. So that's one thing to think about. Now, if you are trying to get into recruiting, I would say not in tech. It would have to be like maybe in health or business recruiting. But if you are like an engineer or data scientist, then yes, there are roles available. But long story short, I would hold off if you're trying to get into tech through the recruiting funnel. There are other ways you can get in, like product managers, program managers, but even program managers are getting laid off too. So I would just do your research. If you do see a role open, again, just get a referral, talk to someone from the company, and just ask the right questions. Like, if they haven't laid off, why haven't they been laying off? Like, that's a good question to ask when you're in the interview process or with the recruiter. If they have laid off, like, why is this role open? So asking the right questions when it comes to those tech roles that are open in the tech space, but just be mindful. It's just a rough spot right now. So I would just hold off until things kind of smooth out.
Okay, that's fair. And you have to gauge the market anyway. We've
Yeah.
had to gauge this market since the beginning of the year. The last
Mhm.
couple of years have been really beneficial to people, right? We've gotten some really good tech roles, we've gotten some really good roles overall. But now I think what's happening is we get so scared because we do see a lot of layoffs. How do
Right.
you hone in on feeling comfortable and confident in changing careers or roles in this type of climate?
That's honestly a hard question because it's really not comfortable. Like, to be honest, I think, you know, at the end of the day, it comes back down to networking and getting a referral. Even if you don't see a job posted, if you see a company that you really want to work at, shoot your shot and see if
Mhm.
there's any roles about to be open. But I think at the end of the day, just with everything happening, I don't want to direct people to be like, oh, like it's gonna be okay, da 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 da, because I was thinking that the whole time I was at GoPuff, and here I am now. So I think at the
Right.
end of the day, it is really just a networking thing, and it's who you know nowadays and who can get you into those spaces.
Who you know. Please, who you know. Use your internal network. Use your external network. Use a friend of a friend, a girlfriend of a partner. Do something. You want a person that will circulate your resume, that will talk you up and give you that warm intro. All right, we got another question.
Oh, hey.
Follow, following previous question, if tech is still interesting, what would be the tech role or roles you'd advise to target for someone who wants to pivot? Well, that's a really good question.
Yes, of course. Okay, so for example, the client that I'm helping out right now that's trying to pivot from being a news reporter to tech, we're getting her into like a coordination role that has to do with media coordination, which kind of aligns with what she's doing in the news space. So in that sort of realm, we are trying to convert her to a tech company versus like not really a tech role per se. So it's more so looking for roles within tech companies that align with what you're doing and
Okay.
that getting a referral, because a lot of companies like Google, their mindset is good people know good people. So they like referrals from Googlers because they're like, oh, if you're referring them, they must be, good as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's more so if you see a tech company and there is a role that you align to, definitely shoot your shot, go for it. It might not necessarily be a tech role. Like, for example, even though I've been in tech recruiting, like I could have easily been a non-tech recruiter, but working at a tech company, if that makes sense. So doing like the marketing hiring or the sales hiring. That's not necessarily a tech role, right? But it's a tech company. So at least try to get into a tech company, and then once you're in, you can network your way in through there.
Okay. That's a good idea. That's a good, not even idea. That's good feedback. That's really good feedback. Hopefully that answers a question. And I want to encourage anybody who has any other questions to shoot them in the chat, and I'm doing my best to make sure that I filter them up. If I were to say, you know what, Kiana, I want to work with you, what would be my first steps?
First step is to schedule a 15-minute fit call with me. Even if you know me, I know a lot of my friends are like, yo, can you just do my resume? And I'm like, no, get on a call with me for 15 minutes. I need to understand what you're trying to pivot into. Why are you wanting to redo your resume? Do you hate your job? Did you get laid off? Like, I just need to know the tea so I know how we
Yeah.
can kind of correct, our coaching sessions, because everyone's situation is different. Some people are happy with their roles, but not happy with the money that they're making. Some people did just get laid off. Some people ended up quitting their jobs. Like, I just need to know the story because that helps me navigate how we go from there.
Okay.
So first and foremost, 15-minute fit call. And then from there, that's when we start figuring out, okay, what package do you want? So I do offer 3 packages. One is career success. Um, that is that is essentially resume review, interview prep, and then interview training. And then I also have, or maybe that's the career boost. But anyway, the other package that I have is it has resume review, interview training, interview prep, and salary negotiation. So with that one, that's a lot of my executives love that one because a lot of people don't know how to negotiate. They're like, I don't know, like, do I just ask for
People
10K
get
more? It's
uncomfortable
like, no.
talking about money.
Oh my God, literally. And so I basically teach them like what verbiage you should be doing. Like, one thing is get on the phone with your recruiter, then put it in writing. Don't just put it in writing. You need to like talk to someone about your negotiation. So a lot of people don't know how to do that. They'll just craft a long ass email about, oh, I need this. Like, no, get on the phone with someone. So that's like one of the things I talk about in my salary negotiations. And also not just negotiating your salary, but also benefits. Okay, if you can't give me 10K more, can I work from home? Like, do I have to be in the
Part.
office?
Right.
Can you give me some more when it comes to like performance bonus? Like, if it's 10% bonus, try to ask for 20, whatever the case is. Like, navigate your way through other portions of the offer when it comes to negotiations. And then also to interview prep, I do like I have an interview package, and then also have resume writing. So really tailored to whatever you as a client thinks is best.
Okay.
I work with you, but that 15-minute phone call with me or fit call with me is very important because, again, I just want to understand your story.
Okay. That'll work. What's the best way to reach you?
I would say through LinkedIn. I also just made an IG page for Your Key Coach, so you can DM me
Yay.
there. I also do have a Calendly link that's linked to that IG post or IG profile, so you can reach me there. And then my email, I'll have it dropped. But those are essentially
Okay.
how you can.
Let's talk about LinkedIn real quick too. Can you tell people why they should have a LinkedIn outside of it's the place to network?
Yeah, so being in Mexico City, I have learned not LinkedIn is not a big thing here. Like, I've worked with people or chatted with people, they're like, what's LinkedIn? So I think LinkedIn is a very American European thing. But it is very important to have LinkedIn. Recruiters, we have like our own LinkedIn recruiter package where we're sourcing through there. So, and sourcing is basically finding candidates. So definitely have your LinkedIn up to date. Reflect it to your resume. If you want, take whatever you have on your resume, put it on your LinkedIn. Keep it short and sweet. Doesn't have to be too crazy, but just make sure it reflects your experience. Make sure it's accurate. Make sure that you have a profile picture. I've been seeing some people like don't put their picture on there, but put your picture on LinkedIn. But do not put your picture on your resume. Jessica taught me
Please
that.
don't. Thank you. And you can even get AI generated headshots.
Yeah,
So
you
all you
can.
have to do is get a picture of your face, and you can upload it in some of these AI generated platforms, and they'll
Yeah,
create you walking and doing all this other weird shit. But it's definitely
right.
worth trying.
Exactly.
Yes, LinkedIn is where the money is, and even for entrepreneurs, business owners, you can find a lot of opportunity on LinkedIn. You can find a lot of grants, funding, pitch partnerships. That's why I like LinkedIn. Let me answer some of these questions. I feel bad. You often mention referrals to land your dream jobs. What would you say what would be three takeaways in order to get one from your target company? Actually, nobody asked that one yet.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so number one is find someone that works at the company, connect with them on LinkedIn. Once they respond to your connection request, get the writing. And again, keep it short and sweet. Let them know, hey, I'm interested in your company. I'm interested in this role. Please let me know if we can chat or if there's any other openings that, would align to my experience. So I'm hoping, once you send that message, they look at your LinkedIn, they look at your background. If they're nice and they have time, they're like, hey, let's chat. Yep. So that would be a second takeaway. And then a third way would be honestly just talking to, if let's say you don't know anyone from the company that you're targeting, really just, again, do your research, tap into your alumni network. I'm sure someone knows somebody. Like, if you didn't go to college, it's fine. Like, I know LinkedIn tells you like who you're connected or like if you have mutual connections. So definitely utilize that. If you know someone that works at that company, that's, a chain reaction. So I think it's like a domino effect. Like, if they know someone, they'll tell that person and that'll be another way in. So if there's a will, there's a way. Just
absolutely. Absolutely. If there's a will, there's a way. All right, we got one more and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
What are your biggest what are your biggest LinkedIn pet peeves? This is a good one.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a really good question. So for me personally, I would say as a recruiter, it just bothers me when people, like, there's a lot of people that, again, don't like reaching out. They'll just shoot me their resume and be like, hey, can you look at my resume? Thanks. And I'm like, for what? What am I looking at your resume for?
No.
Do not do that. Be more specific. What role? Or they're like, hey, I'm looking for software engineering roles. Here's my resume. I'm like, give me the link. Like, there's so many different roles at GoPuff or Google. Like, which one? Or even now, I don't work at GoPuff. Been not working there for 6 months. And people are like, hey, I'm interested in this role at GoPuff, and I'm like, yo, I don't even work there.
Did you look at my profile? Did you do your research?
Literally. So that bothers me. It's like they're not even looking. They're just looking at whatever my headline. So I changed my headline. And then also, men and women, don't shoot your shot on LinkedIn. It's creepy. It's weird. Like, no, just don't do it. I've known women that do it to men. Like, yo, he has a bomb job. He must be rich. Let me shoot my shot. Like, no, go find him on Hinge.
Like, that part, or shoot him an email. Shoot him an email.
Right, find another avenue. Just don't use LinkedIn.
That part. That part. I will tell you that I hate when people cold pitch me on LinkedIn. Don't cold pitch me. I'm looking to make money too. I don't want what you got. I do not want what you got.
Yeah.
That's no. Those are really good. I'm not going to be able to get to your question. I'm so sorry. Hopefully we'll do another one.
Yes.
Leave us with the gym. How would you want to sign out?
I want to tell everyone, especially with the layoffs going on, like, rejection is redirection, because when I got laid off, I was upset, but my dad was like, you know what? Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Now get your Spanish up. I was like,
there you go.
I was like, all right. And my mom was like, no, Kiana, I think you should come home. Like, maybe Mexico City, like, isn't for you. Like, maybe you need to get home. And my dad was like, why would she come home when there is nothing to do out here? She's not going to thrive at home. Like, she's happy in Mexico City. She has her people there, her boyfriend's there. Like, just let her be where she's happy. Yeah. And so that's, like, thankfully, like, I'm still here. I'm fine. And I think, again, just it's okay to be rejected in all facets of life. Like, the man or the woman ain't working out. Oh, well, there's plenty of others.
Find a new one.
Find a new one. I sure did. So I think I just want to leave people with that. Like, don't be discouraged. Have your little cry, but then do whatever you got to do, but keep it moving because that's life.
Exactly. That's how we're going to sign out. I appreciate everybody tuning in, asking amazing questions. Kiana, I am so proud of you and I'm super excited to see where you go. Make sure you guys tap in with Kiana. She is doing amazing shit all the way through.
You
Connect with
as
her on
well.
LinkedIn. I'm trying, girl. I'm trying. I am trying. Thank you guys so much. Be on the lookout for another one.
Yes.
Right. Let's see.
Bye, everybody.